You can copy any rules from one clock to any other clock. To do this, you open the clock that has the rules that you want to copy, open the Rules menu, and select Copy to Other Clocks. Check the boxes next to any rule characteristics that you want to copy. Then select any or all of your other clocks. Click the OK button, and the selected rules from the clock you're viewing will be applied to all of the selected clocks. Now back to the other parts of setting rules. The default setting for partially scheduled hours is 65 minutes. If you create a new clock, it'll automatically be entered here as 65 minutes. This is because most commercial radio stations overschedule their hours with an extra song, so they'll have one there in case the final commercial load for the hour comes out to be less than planned for, and they need an extra song to fill it out. I suggest you leave this default setting. You're going to be building format clocks that come to an average of about 60 minutes, but there's no way to know in advance the exact final content of any hour. Sometimes an hour may happen to get a run of shorter than average songs and might end up with a total of 58 or 59 minutes, and another hour may happen to get a run of longer than average songs and end up with 62, 3, or 4 minutes of content. You can then make any adjustments as needed. If you have this set to 65 minutes, and 1 hour happens to come up with scheduled content that totals more than 65 minutes, Music One will display the titles on that clock in red font to call your attention to it. You can leave the hour overscheduled, or you can make some adjustments as you choose. An overscheduled playlist will still play properly on the air or on your stream. Music One allows you to actually schedule up to 80 minutes of content in a clock, so you could set this box higher than the default 65 minutes if you wanted. Now, the fully scheduled hour box is probably something you don't want to fool around with just yet. If you click this restrict box and you then enter a minimum and a maximum length, then if any hour where the clock is used happens to end up with scheduled content that is less than or more than the lengths that you have set, Music One will not let you complete the log and make a playlist file until you've resolved the issue. The partially scheduled hour setting isn't like that. If anything more than 65 minutes is scheduled, you'll get a visual alert when the units in the hour switch to red font, but you can still save the log and make the playlist. But with this rule, if you set it for 58 minutes and 62 minutes, the hour will have a 4-minute window. During scheduling, if the clock happens to come up with content outside the window even a second less than 58 minutes or a second more than 62 minutes, Music One will require that you go to that hour and make adjustments before you can save the playlist. You can save the log file and come back and finish the schedule later if need be, but it won't make a playlist file for your automation or playout system. Now, maybe that's the way you want it in the end, but at least in your initial setup and as you're learning to schedule with Music One, don't check this box. Same artist previous day is another rule that I wouldn't use myself. If I click Disallow and I enter 30 minutes in the box, then if a song by, say, the Rolling Stones schedules one day at 6:15, Music One will not allow any song by the Stones to schedule the next day between 5:45 and 6:45, or 30 minutes either side of where the one was scheduled the previous day. I don't use this rule because if it's a different song by the Stones scheduling near the same time on the second day, I don't think that's a problem. It's not going to be the same song scheduling the second day in the slot. This rule here takes care of that. Click Same Time Previous Day, and Music One will use the rotation patterns of each category to ensure that nothing within the category will be scheduled close to the same time 2 days in a row. Now, that's a category-specific thing, of course. Stations with a very hot, high rotation category may have it planned so that a song which schedules at 6 a.m. one day would schedule again in the 7 a.m. hour the following day. If that were to be the case, Music One would make sure that the second day repeat was as far away from the previous day's play as could be, considering the typical rotation or repeat play pattern of any individual category. Allowing double shots is a function that's kind of cool but rarely used. What it does is allow 2 songs by the same artist to be scheduled back-to-back automatically if they just happen to come up in rotation next to each other. This would override the normal artist separation rule in the case of a double shot. Only artists that you've specified as being okay for double shots would be eligible. You mark those in the artist table. If you use this function, you can also tell Music One not to do automatic double shots too close together. If I enter 2 hours here, Music One wouldn't do another double shot any closer than 2 hours from the last one, Now, this does not ensure that double shots will be done. It doesn't make them happen. It only lets them happen. If two songs by the same artist happen to come up in rotation next to each other as Music One is scheduling. No repeated songs in the same day. This rule you probably don't need either. If all of your categories are designed with rotation patterns that are greater than 24 hours, then you're not going to get songs scheduling twice in the same day anyway. On the other hand, if you have a category with, say, a 15-hour rotation pattern, and you check this box, it'll give you problems, because some songs in that category are supposed to be scheduled twice on some days. This rule would say, no, don't let that happen, and it would create a bottleneck. This rule is clock-specific, and it's used by some stations that feature what they call no-repeat workdays. The pitch to listeners is that they'll not hear the same song repeated between 9 and 5 on weekdays. If you're doing that, then you can use this rule. Final rule. 2 run limits are a violation. If I've told Music One that it's okay to schedule 2 female songs back-to-back, and it's okay to schedule 2 slow songs back-to-back, then with this box checked, Music One will not schedule 2 songs back-to-back that are both slow and female. It won't schedule any song that would then equal the maximum run setting for 2 different rule characteristics.